Hi, and welcome to Alex Talking. I'm on location from beautiful Hiawassee, Georgia, where I just spent the night. And it is time for me to talk about my May 2025 new release ranking. Because I saw 16 new movies this month. I've got to say, it was kind of a rough month at the movies. Unfortunately, I have to say, outside of maybe the top five or six, not many of these did much for me. But I've got something to say about all of them, so let's get cracking. How about it? So, starting at number 16. 16 movies for this month. That's a lot of movies. Uh, I did see this one in a theater, but I'm not sure if anyone has heard of it. It's called Rosario. Rosario number 16 is bad, in my opinion. This is just one of those bad, like, family lineage possession movies that doesn't really do anything new except for give it a new, you know, coat of paint, giving it a different, like, background and, you know, lore, but not really lore because it's not like anything was actually interesting about it. It's all very boilerplate base level. Oh my gosh, my grandma's dead. This house is weird. She was right. This is weird. Something's after us. Like, hey guys, Hereditary is a movie that exists. And people thought it was derivative at that time. Some people, not me, but some people thought it was derivative of other stuff at that time as well. So it's crazy that 7 years later, it's good enough to still be doing stuff like this. But obviously not, because this wasn't big at all. My girlfriend just knew somebody who was a part of it. Um, she knew the production designer. So she wanted to go see it. I looked over there because she's asleep in the truck still. But she wanted to go see it, so we went and saw it. But um, always gotta say good morning to fellow campers. But no, this sucked. So coming in at number 15, Shadow Force. Shadow Force was a movie that I actually saw in theaters again on my own volition because I like Joe Carnahan and I honestly call it a scandal. I like Kerry Russell or Kerry Washington. And this sucked too. This this is like the type of action movie that I go to because I say, well, it's an original action movie, based on the trailer, it seems like it'd be very hard for them to mess this up. And then it's type of thing. As soon as you're watching it, it's like, well, it's messed up in how it's edited, how it's shot, especially how the action is shot, how the action was even conceived, the idea of what the Shadow Force is, um, and the actual plot. The actual plot was also one of the worst I've seen in an action movie. Not because it was new or like did something shockingly crazy or original. No, once again, this is an action movie you've seen 289 times. No, it just is so derivative while also having no heart, but insisting that it has a family tone at the heart of it. So it's one of those weird things that it's like, well, it's weird that you're playing this deadly serious about how this kid doesn't know what his mother looks like while also having weird humor with him and his dad, and none of it's funny, none of it's emotionally resonant, and none of it worked for me. So number 15 is Shadow Force, and the very first swing and a miss of Joe Carnahan's career for me. This guy, not that any of them were homers, but he was hitting solid singles and doubles with every one of these action movies. Cop Shop, The Gray, A Team, you know, even like Smoking Aces. Like these are all solid, fun, good, decent action movies with which are elevated because of their craft, which is notable. Not just an action movie that's like, hey, it was solid, it was fine. It was like, hey, it was solid, it was fine because it was pretty fun and it had good energy and was like solidly made. So yeah, this was a bummer. Coming in at 14, talk about a filmmaker I like releasing a bummer of a garbage generic action movie. Anyone could guess what this is if they knew it existed, and that's Fountain of Youth. Um, and I'm sorry if I sound under the weather this morning. That's only because a little bit I am, but gotta thug this shit out and just
keep going. So what's gonna stop me from doing this? You know, I got the time. It's 6:30. So, yeah, Fountain of Youth. Dreadful. Yeah, that was absolutely dreadful. My buddy Jack and I watched this, and I don't know how we got through it in one sitting. Because whenever he was in town with a few other friends, we could not get through Electric State in one sitting. We had to watch that over like 3 sittings. We got through this one in one sitting, but that was just because of Natalie Portman. Um, you know, cheating husband, boo. Free champagne, yeah. Is my favorite part of the movie when Natalie Portman says that. Natalie Portman, a woman I've starred in a movie with. Not starred, but she starred in a movie that I was an extra in, May December. And I was behind her in the last frame of the graduation at the end. Woo. But this is a whiff, man. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. Even told Guy Ritchie I won't be an extra in this one because it is like if someone AI generated, hey, can you make a whole movie about the like finale of The Last Crusade, but make it have like the vibe of a like incest fantasy romance between John Krasinski and Natalie Portman. Isa Gonzalez is great. She looks great as always. Natalie Portman looks great as always. Nothing else in this movie looked good or was good. Coming in at number 13 is Fair Street Prom Queen. Fair Street Prom Queen was bad, but in a way that was so much less aggressive than the first 3 Fair Streets, and I'm shocked at its reception. But I can't say I'm surprised because usually whenever shitty horror movies come out on Netflix, the majority of like the hungry consumeristic audience that watches them is liable to mistakenly like them, especially back in 2020 and 2021 when Fair Street did come out. This is a long time in the coming, and may I say, like 2 years too late. Like, who gives a shit? Like, these movies work bad, and I know anyone who watches this video will even have an opinion about them otherwise, but because I do, because I'm the one talking, I'll just share this. Um, like the Fair Street movies were bad, but outside of the second one, the first and third are two of the worst horror movies I've ever seen, especially Fair Street 1666, because it's like not at all what I go to a horror movie for, other than gore. But the gore is so like it's one of those slashers that for me it feels like you have to wait an hour and 10 minutes in between each kill, and the lighting is horrible, and I despise those movies. I remember the bread slicer from the first one and Gillian Jacobs, and I remember the second one. Excuse me. The second one was solid. Second one's a total like 2.5, 2 out of 5. Camp slasher. Like it wasn't well made or anything, but it was a camp slasher, so that was funner. But the first and third, my gosh, they suck. So this one was like, it's a bad prom slasher. I'll throw it out there. I think it's a little lower on the list because I don't like prom slashers. Because prom slashers also are ones that feel like they take forever in between kills. And when they do happen, they're really boring because it's always just a killer's waiting for people to go have sex or drink or do something in a different room, which is like what most slashers are, but in a lot more interesting location than a school. So I'm not real big on prom slashers, but Catherine Watterson was hilarious hamming it up in this, as was Chris Klein. Like, honestly, love that they were married in this. They are two of my favorites to see pop up in anything. Um, and I could not I could not fathom whenever I saw Catherine Watterson. All my love to Chris Klein, that made complete sense. But whenever I saw Catherine Watterson doing this, I was like, not everybody gets out of Babylon clean. It's a shame. But coming in at number 12 now. That was our, okay, 14 to 16 was our bad range, or our awful range. Starting at Fair Street, we're just in bad movies now. These are just bad. Like I said, I did not think Fair Street was as aggressively bad as its predecessors. It is just the beginning of the bad range. And moving forward, number 12 in the bad range is Thunderbolts. Thunderbolts, probably the most irritating movie of May, if I could think on it, thinking about all these movies. Because, I mean, Like, Fountain of Youth is awful, but Thunderbolts irritated me because so many people wouldn't stop talking to me about it and telling me it was good. And that irritated me. Not that they're not allowed to think it's good, that they have to tell me that they think it's good. Because it's like when Wicked came out, because then people want to know why I think it's bad, and then I'm like, okay, here's why I think it's bad, and then I have to tell them, and that doesn't really bring me joy, you know. But doing it in this format, where I can just say what I don't like about a movie, that's fine with me, because I don't feel like I'm trying to tell someone to not like a movie. Because anyone who watches this, I would hope, is just like enjoys listening to people talk about movies, because that's why I listen to this sort of stuff, not because I need to have my opinion agreed with, you know. So, if you like Thunderbolts, good for you. I'm glad. But this movie was annoying to me. It was Black Widow's little sister is the lead of the new Avengers, with three different Captain Americas, the Ant-Man and the Wasp reject villain, and Elaine Seinfeld as their Nick Fury. And they then, after the first week of release, try to pass it off. This is the new Avengers movie. Go see it. And then that did get people to go. Like, I literally personally know people who went and saw it to see how that was handled, because they were like, no way, this is going to be really stupid. Thunderbolts is the new Avengers movie. Oh my gosh, they hated it. My buddy Eli went and saw it. He was so mad that it sucked so bad. And I was like, sorry, bub. I have no idea what to tell you, because I have no idea why this movie has the reception it has. Because it's just stupid. That's what separates it from a lot of the recent Marvel movies. It's not bad and stupid, it's just stupid, which almost makes the fact that that makes it bad worse. Like, it's competently made, it still looks great. Florence Pugh is a great actress. She's just doing a stupid Russian accent the whole time. David Harbour's a great actor. He's just doing a stupid Russian accent the whole time. Like, I don't know how anybody at all takes this seriously. And that is all to say, because I can't take it seriously. Like, I know people who don't like Sinners. Yeah, Sinners, of all things. Because they say they can't take it seriously because of the voices. I'm like, well, there's just no world in which I can take this movie seriously. Because two of the people's voices are ridiculous, coming out of characters that they should have been one-off characters in a spin-off movie that accidentally got popular. Talking to Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is like literally getting a cleaver put right between your head. Like, that they thought that was acceptable, you know? And that's acceptable to be the new Avengers. That you think it's a good idea to do a storyline of there's two separate groups of Avengers. Oh, wait a minute. That is honestly a pretty cool and fun idea. But having the second group be the Thunderbolts, led by Black Widow's little sister, going against Sam Wilson, Captain America, and Green Falcon from the horrible fucking shitty Captain America movie you made 3 months ago? How? So I saw this in a theater where people were behind me screaming, "We're so back!" during scenes where, like, Bucky showed up, or it says the new Avengers. And I'm like, we're so 12, you know? But what are you going to do? And I say that because they were a college student. But anyways, coming in at number 11, the other Disney corporate slop of the month, this one being marginally better than Thunderbolts, Lilo and Stitch. And that's because Thunderbolts is also a movie that doesn't have very interesting action. And when it's an action movie that has a lot of boring talking scenes, and when they're broken up with action, I don't like the action, it's going to end up pretty low on a list like this. Lilo and Stitch isn't an action movie. And I think it's a bad movie, this remake of it. So that is to say that I should probably think a bad action movie is better than a bad remake of a family film. But here's the kicker. Two distinct kickers. One, Lilo and Stitch is my favorite animated movie, probably, of all time. That's huge. That's massive. It's Lilo and Stitch or Frozen 2. Those are the two they could have made in a live-action movie, and will get me the most excited. So, I wasn't excited. I can't lie, because literally the idea of a live-action remake is just something that they could do it to, like, well, once again, my favorite animated movie ever, and not for a second did I actually even think to be excited, other than the fact that, once again, my fiance met the director of it, Dean Fleischer Camp,
about 2.5 years ago, whenever Marcel the Shell with Shoes On was at the SCAD Film Festival, and he talked about, well, shout out, I met him too, but she met him in a much more uh, private setting. They were in like a documentary club meeting, and he was talking to their documentary club about how he was going to be doing this movie. And so she's been really excited for it the whole time since. So we double featured this with Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, but I actually did it by going to the world's tallest IMAX in Pooler, Georgia for Mission Impossible, and then going to Cookout for dinner, and then speeding over to Lilo and Stitch at the AMC 11 because we have AMC A-list. And I was not going to pay for this. And all of this to say, yeah, I like Stitch. So this is better than every other Disney live action remake. I think I would be probably willing to say that. It's better than like Aladdin, better than Cinderella, better than Alice in Wonderland. Certainly better than Snow White and The Lion King. And yeah, I can't think of anyone that's better than this. And it's a 2 out of 5 for me. But that's because Stitch looks great. Tia Carrere looks great. And the little girl was great. The little girl who played Lilo, they like actually got a little girl, and the level to which I appreciated that was immense. Like, don't get me wrong, I really appreciated that they stayed true to the fact that like this is a little baby playing with this little rabid dog thing, and that was fun. But I have no idea why some changes were made to this. And it's not like making a change to a movie bothers me. It makes it just feel so superfluous and pointless and agenda driven that I'm like, okay, whatever. You could have just made the cute live action Stitch movie and I would have given it 2.5 or 3. But you had to like make it 25 minutes longer with 1/87th of the soul. No, that's being generous. 1/1000th 87th of the soul, because there's 2 fucking child protective service agents in this movie. They said, let's remake it, but make sure there's 2 child protective service agents, and none of them are Ving Rhames. That's vital. Make sure that that's true. Why not just have one? Why not just have it be Tia Carrere? You think that, it would be a crime to not have Cobra Bubbles in this movie. Well, guess what it is, because he's not, because that's not him, so what's the point? And that's what this movie left me feeling. It's like, why put Jumba in it as Zach Galifianakis giving drunk suicidal comedian doing a kid's live action family film to pay the bills, but is like ready to hang it up, because that was rough. He is so miscast in this, it's unbelievable. And I say miscast because, like, that's just not the role for Zach Galifianakis to play, because I say that as a Zach Galifianakis fan. I think The Hangover is hilarious. Due Date's good. I just said that in the year of our Lord 2025, but this? Nah. And it looked, like, the actual aliens, they looked freaky, especially the Pleakley one. Like, that looked freaky. Billy Magnuson did good as Pleakley, but that looked freaky. And they took out him wearing dresses. And, I watched that movie whenever I was a young, formative kid, and it didn't turn me whatever it's afraid that they're going to turn kids into nowadays, and that's why they take it out, And, like, if so, so be it, Let it be. Let us all have fun. Let him wear a dress. Fuck, man. This shit sucked. Coming in at number 10, Hurry Up Tomorrow. This shit sucked. Oh my gosh. We are in bad movie range, but like, it is just so interesting how my brain views it. Rosario, Fountain of Youth, Shadow Force. There's just nothing there. Nothing. Like, and whenever I say, I mean, 0. There's nothing of note or redeeming quality there for me, personally. And nothing I'll remember, because I did not think anything was good. Lilo and Stitch, I think Stitch looked good. Thunderbolts, I think Bob was good. And Hurry Up Tomorrow, I think the cinematography was good. You know what I mean? Like, this is where, like, these movies are higher. But, like, even though, like, the cinematography was great in Hurry Up Tomorrow, and Jenna Ortega looked hot in Hurry Up Tomorrow,
everything else is just as bad as like any other one of these movies. It's just as bad. So that's just how I like rank these, you know. These are all very bad movies to certain extents. It's just what my like perception is of watching them and how much I hate watching it or how much I enjoy it. And this one I certainly enjoyed more than the other ones, even though it was excruciating in a weird way because it's just a weekend music video. And for context, I was pumped. I saw the trailer for this and I thought it looked great. And then I saw it was directed by Trey Edward Schultz, who I love, absolutely love Waves. That was one of my favorite movies of 2019. And 2019 is one of the most important years for cinema ever. So that's huge. And I like Krisha, his other movie. And I like, what's that one called? Oh, I don't like It Comes at Night that much. But that's okay. But anyways, I was excited for this just because it looked good. Just because it looked good. And because I like the director. And I just ignored that red flag that it starred and was written by and produced by The Weeknd. And that was rough. That was rough. He is on a Ben Diesel meets J-Lo type ego trip here. And it is an explosion on a cataclysmic level, unlike I've ever seen of ego trip and ego death on the big screen in the biggest format. And there's a scene in this movie that is so good where Jenna Ortega sings and dances to the entirety of Blinded by the Lights by The Weeknd. And she's doing like TikTok dances while he's tied to a bed. And he wrote that shit and he produced that shit. He got hot ass Jenna Ortega to star in it. That is nuts. That's nuts. And there's a scene where he's like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Can't you tell I'm trying to do something nice here? Can't you tell I'm trying to be nice to you? To Jenna Ortega. I mean, it's horrible. Barry Keoghan shows up. He's awesome. Nothing's wrong with Jenna or Barry Keoghan, but it's just hilarious. The Weeknd thinks he should be doing this shit. Coming in at number 9, I have a little paper here. Here's what I've been doing. Another Simple Favor. Okay, it makes sense that was the one I really could not make out what I had written because that's just a movie I forget exists. So, yeah, this is the end, I believe, of the bad tier here. I'm just going to grab my notes, be fully transparent, because they were starting to get blown almost around my phone by the wind. Another Simple Favor at 9. This is a goofy bad movie. And goofy bad movies, you would come to find, always make it higher than outright bad movies. Because to me, like, yes. Like, whenever I really blank to think of something I thought was good about the Thunderbolts, it's because that one is one of those movies as well where it's not awful. Like I said, it's not, like, aggressively awful. It's just completely bad start to finish for me. Like, it wasn't, like, dun, 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 dun. Whenever, like, you got hospital waves, it was just flatlined the entire time. But it never went down like that. So that was a great metaphor. I hope that worked. Something like Another Simple Favor was like dun 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 dun. It like goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. Blake Lively is giving the disaster piece performance of the century, maybe. Blake Lively and The Weeknd should star in a movie together. Pitch that right now. That would be hilarious. Blake Lively has to play at least 4 characters though, and 2 of them must be neurodivergent. That's my request. Because that's what this was, and it was really funny that she was like playing baby mode at points, and Anna Kendrick was still just hot and Anna Kendrick the whole time, and the plot made no logical sense, and it became like a weird European like slasher, almost giallo style. Henry Golden getting his ears exploded in the shower type shit. Like, trades all logic and realism and interesting thriller, but with relatable mommy vlogger, like, heart of it, of the first one, and just throws out the window, does a disposable, my celebrities want to go on a vacation, I'm going to make this movie, Paul Feig Amazon movie, and it was fine. Obviously, I liked it more than every other movie below it, so it's fine. That gets us out of the bad range, and we are now safely in mid, at number 8 out of 16, halfway through. Half of these movies were bad. Usually I do find that most of them I have better things to say about it. I really thought this was going to be a better month, and everything ended up being kind of disappointing. Because number 8 is something that did not disappoint me. It's something I didn't even expect to see this month. It's something I went to an early screening of. So this didn't even come out this month. I just went to an early screening of it, and I feel like talking about it. So I'm going to talk about it. And that's the How to Train Your Dragon remake. It was fine. It was way better than the Lilo and Stitch remake. I mean, you just heard me bitch about that. So let's talk about why the How to Train Your Dragon remake is infinitely better. And that is something I would have negatively expected because I did not actively plan on seeing this movie when it released. Like in theaters, I would not have saw this. But they had an advanced screening at SCAD, and one of my friends, her favorite movie of all time is How to Train Your Dragon, and she asked if I'd go with her, and I was like, yeah, sure. And I'm glad I did because while this looks horrible, every time you see a commercial or a trailer for it, like visually, it just looks dreck. And when you actually watch the movie, there's some really bad CGI. It actually looks very, very solid for a blockbuster of these days. And it has good production design, it has good costume design. The main actor and Gerard Butler are the two I'll shout out. I don't think this movie has good acting. I'll throw that out there. This movie has mostly bad acting, but Mason Thames and Gerard Butler really steady the ship whenever it comes to how bad the performances are. By having that consistency and that groundedness and actual competence to how they're delivering their lines, that makes it work. The dragons look phenomenal. This is obviously an advertisement to get you to want to go to Epic Universe and see the new How to Train Your Dragon world, but hey, I want to go to Burke after watching this. It looked great. The sequels are going to lend themselves to live action so much better than this one. Just because, it's a very tried and true classic to me. I don't think I don't think either of them are classics. I think this one was always the best one. So, once again, I don't really like live action remakes. So, turning this into a live action remake was very hollow for the most part to me. And I was shocked it was the same director because the third act, especially, was so mid compared to the first one. Because it just lost any sense of grandeur. Excuse me. And I think that was maybe due to the direction, not knowing how to do the action set piece the way they wanted, even though it was all CGI, so that would have been difficult. But the sense of geography and scale and stakes was all really muddled to me in the third act in a bunch of smog. Whereas the first time I saw the original in theaters as a kid in 3D with the snow coming at you was legendary. So it's not as good, obviously. It's never going to be as good as the original. But for a live action remake, yeah, this is easily way better than all the Disney ones. Because I said Lilo and Stitch was better than all the Disney ones that I had seen. And this was infinitely better than Lilo and Stitch, like, as an actual movie. Like, I would probably honestly rewatch them the same amount of times, which is neither. But this is like a solid, fine action blockbuster, whereas Lilo and Stitch was just a fine movie with some real bad issues in it and some stupid changes. But this one was like a slavishly devoted remake of the first one with the same director behind it that just didn't have that same sense of magic. But it certainly had care and craft and effort put into it, and that is what I will always appreciate and latch into in a movie. And I appreciate these filmmakers for putting in way more of an effort and way more of a quality film for children to be watching, for children to be going to theaters and knowing as the entertainment that they grew up on in the cinema. This is way better for them and way better quality than any of the Disney remakes because it actually feels like effort and thought was put into it. Coming in at number 7, Karate Kid Legends. This is a movie that is not necessarily everything I just said, while also working so much better than the ones below it for me personally, because this was bizarre. And I say it before and I'll say it again, I like weird movies, and sometimes I like when blockbusters are really weird. And this was a really weird blockbuster because this is a Karate Kid movie where they pitch you in the trailers that it's Rafe Macchio, Jackie Chan, the Masters are linking up to teach the new Karate Kid. And Ben Wang as a new Karate Kid is very good. He is so likable and charming, and I really appreciated after I just watched Karate Kid 3 and the next Karate Kid for the first time in anticipation for this one. And honestly, he's the most likable of all the Karate Kids, the four that we've seen in these movies. He is the least bitchy and the most trying to just do good. I like Danny LaRusso as well, but like Danny LaRusso is like an 80s like, hey, I want pizza and surf, like boy ever. I mean, I don't like Hilary Swank in the next Karate Kid, but that's just because outside of Pat Morita, there's very little to like out of the next Karate Kid and Michael Ironside. But anyways, I thought Ben Wang was good in this movie, and it's so funny because it's like, well, you think that that's what the movie is, but it's actually he leaves China because his brother died in after a karate tournament, and his mother is taking him to New York, trying to get him on the right path. He befriends a pizza store owner and his daughter, and starts training the pizza store owner to be a boxer by teaching him kung fu after he saves him from a bunch of loan sharks by using his karate powers. So you can tell Sony made this, and it's just as incomprehensible as you would hope. But it montages through everything like that. Other than the pizza, like that subplot is like the first hour of the movie. And then the last 45 minutes is, well, that didn't work. So now you're going to be the Karate Kid. And then it becomes the movie they promised you. And then it montages through that with scenes of Jackie Chan going to Rafe Macchio and being like, hey, it's time for you to come to New York because I got the new Karate Kid. And he's just like, you. But to me. And Rafe Macchio is like, hey, that's awesome. I obviously am still very into karate because I'm maintaining this dojo here. And, you know, anyone who watched Cobra Kai could tell me if he is practicing karate in that, because I know he's in that. I've never seen it. I don't know if he's like anti-karate in that, but it was really weird to me that he was just like, no, I don't feel like going to New York. Yes, you're going to go to New York. I really don't think so. I don't really want to. Yes, I'll see you in New York. I don't think so. So then, of course, he just shows up in New York. Like, that sort of thing could be seen as, like, maybe a Mr. Miyagi sense of humor where it's like he knows this is how it is, how it's going to be. That's what Jackie's trying to tap into. But I don't know. It was weird. Also, the whole sequence where, like, you know, Jackie is introduced in New York in the dark doing, like, karate moves on the kid in the dark, and then the light turns on and you see it's Jackie. Was that Jackie doing the stunts? I don't know. I thought it's probably not, and that's why it's in the dark, and then that made me sad. But I don't know. But this just isn't the type of movie that, like, I'm built to hate. Like, this was funny to me, start to finish, because it was so bizarre and so weird and so off the mark. Like, I can't ignore that. Anyone who's a huge Karate Kid fan, especially people who love Cobra Kai, I bet will hate this. Well, I've watched a little of Cobra Kai with my dad. It's not like it's well written either. But this was just stupid for the most part, and not at all what you would hope this would be, and not at all what it was marketed to be. So I think that this will not be well liked at all. But for me, a weird Jackie Chan spinoff movie is more interesting than a Rafe Macchio Legacy sequel. So, yeah, I had a solid time with it, and that's why it's 7. Out of all these movies, it definitely is better than Thunderbolts or Lilo and Stitch to me, even though it's going to make considerably less money. Talking about making no money, number 6, Fight or Flight. This is the new Josh Hartnett original action movie, but it's really just a reskin of Bullet Train put on a plane. Bullet Plane, if you will. Not much to talk about with this movie. It says the F word like 800 times in the first 20 minutes, which I wouldn't comment on if my friend Angelina didn't point out in her Letterboxd review, and I said, that's funny. I literally noticed that as well. Like, I was like, this is swearing a lot. And then she said that, and I was like, yeah, it really did. That was really weird. Because then it, like, cools down on it. It's not like it stops swearing, but it really cools down on it. But in the first 20 minutes, it's every other word, it feels like. The action was solid. Great gore here. Awesome drug tripping scene. Hartnett's hilarious. I had a very good time with it. Coming in at number 5, this is the end of the mid. I skipped Fight or Flight. There's plenty bad about it. It's a super cheap action movie. I don't have any reason to go into the negatives on that one. If you'll watch it, you'll see it's nothing special, but I like action movies. Whenever I say I like action movies, that one felt like, people wanted it to be good. And it felt like it had effort to it. And people were having fun, and I had fun watching it. And that makes me enjoy a movie way more, even despite its flaws. So that was like a 3 out of 5. And this one's also a 3 out of 5. Number 5, Clown in a Cornfield, which is the end of our mid category. And that's just because, admittedly, as much as I give Clown in a Cornfield and Fight or Flight 3s when I left the theater, everything below it would be 2.5 or 2. It still has to go in this category because I don't grasp onto too much here. And it's like another movie higher up on this list. A movie where if I watch it at home, I'm going to fast forward through the first half. Because the first half sucked. And whenever I like a movie second half enough, I have no problem admitting when a first half sucked. And the first half of this movie sucked. I don't really like the characters. Even in the end. Like, I don't like the characters. I don't think they ever really got that good. The girl and her dad were weird and not really believable to me, and I thought they were just going to kill him because they were so unbelievable, but then they wanted it to have like a heart at the end, and that was weird. The gay dudes were awesome. I'm not going to say who they were, even though just saying that there's gay dudes in this might be a spoiler, but it shouldn't be, because, there should be a lot of gay people in a movie. I just mean, like, it's sort of a reveal, so that's why I'm putting a spoiler tag on it. I thought they were awesome, and that was a part of the second half of the movie, and that was, like, what made the movie good for me, because I saw it with a platoon of 9 people, and we all loved those gay kids, and they were awesome, because most of them were gay kids, but, we all thought that was, like, the best part of the movie, and when it got really funny. The first half was not very funny, and it was really just clown slasher tropes. The second half really made you realize, oh, this is why I'm here, this is why I bought the ticket to this movie, and this is where it actually gets, like, Tucker versus Dale kind of funny. And yeah, those boys were really charming and funny, and giving, like, funny bad teen performances, but in a way that you can, like it was campy, like, and that was fun. So kind of in a Cornfield, not without his flaws, but definitely a good time. And seeing it with a group of 9 people, where we filled up the entire row, left to right, and came out of the theater with, like, some people were like half a star, some people were like 5 stars. That was fun. That was funny. And the best of all, none of them had heard about it until I asked. So it was great that so many people showed up for a movie they didn't even know about and had a memorable time. Now we're in the good. These are good movies. One of these, I think, might have been included in my last month's ranking. I'm not entirely sure, because I saw it April 30th, I believe, and that is Nicolas Cage's The Surfer. This was really interesting. I don't think anyone really saw this outside of people who saw it at, like, South by Southwest, but this was really interesting. I thought the water and the beach looked great. It was Australia, baby. And I thought the main Australian antagonist, who, forgive me, I don't know his name, he was really good, and Cage was phenomenal, as always. And just the tribalism. It's about a guy who isn't allowed to surf in Australia on this beach that he grew up going to, because the locals don't let foreigners or non-locals surf there. So it's all like a metaphor for territorialism and stuff, and it's got a lot to say, and some really cool shots, some really trippy sequences, and Nick Cage was awesome in it. So yeah, number 4, The Surfer. Number 3, Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. And I won't lie, it does disappoint me a little bit that this had to come in at 3, because this is The Final Reckoning. Do I think this is the final Mission Impossible? No, I don't. But this is The Final Reckoning. And I was super excited for it. I love Dead Reckoning Part 1, and this is my favorite movie series ever. If you have not seen my ranking of that, I've done a ranking of them. This is my favorite movie series. I love these movies. And this one, the stunts delivered. They were amazing. The actual, like, plane sequence at the end is one of the most incredible stunts I've ever seen in a theater in my life. I wouldn't say it's better than the Burj Khalifa sequence, because that's still just my favorite, but it's maybe the second best stunt in the franchise. That's all worth it. The actual story of this thing is a mess. Overcomplicated, over plot heavy, expositions nonstop, constantly stopping to remind you of the previous films, which I've seen countless times. I watched them all through growing up, but then I rewatched them all prior to seeing 5, 6, 7, and 8. It's the only franchise I do that with. Whenever the last Indiana Jones came out, I rewatched all those. When Final Destination Bloodlines came out, I rewatched all those 3 times. I've seen all those 3 times this year. But that's just because me and MC love them. But this one, 4 times now since 2015. Every time one of these has come out, I've been there in theaters and I've rewatched the entire franchise beforehand. This is my favorite series, and 3 is not bad for this list. But this is a 3 that I would give a 3.4 out of 5 to. You know, this is a solid movie, but this is the movie that I referenced higher up on the list, whose first half admittedly sucks. There are scenes in this movie that I have no idea why they weren't left on the cutting room floor. There were subplots in this movie why I have no idea why they weren't left on the cutting room floor. Other than the idea that Nick Offerman and Hannah Waddingham being celebrities are more important to be involved in the Mission Impossible franchise than having a cohesive and flowing final story. Because those sequences don't really matter. They aren't really interesting. The Nick Offerman one, I've seen this twice now on a rewatch. The Nick Offerman one made more sense as to why they did it, to show how the entity has, you know, people everywhere. And there's a line earlier in the movie that sets that up. But it just felt like it was cutting away from the tension of the plane sequence, and that's what you're here for. And I did not care about any of that stuff. But it was trying to do so much that I did have to appreciate that the effort was put forth. It just isn't the type of franchise or the characters to do that, in my opinion. The Luther stuff at the beginning wasn't exactly handled great either. But once again, I don't like much of anything from the first hour of this movie. Other than whenever it cuts to the title card. I know it's a weird thing to say, but that's a funny sequence, and that's the only funny sequence in this otherwise very somber, serious movie. But like, even the opening, like, "This is your mission, should you choose to accept it" video, where it's recapping everything, is the worst of the franchise, you know? Like, and that's just my opinion, but like, it's all really exposition heavy and stilted, in my opinion, so that hurt. Coming in number 2, these are great movies now. These top 2 are great. Friendship. New A24 movie with Paul Rudd and Tim Robinson. I've seen this twice. Got a headache and dehydrated both times from laughing. I need to go get a SEAL Team 6 meal at Rick's Sports Bar. And I bet that shit would taste so good after licking the toad. Oh my gosh. That shit's so good. I was just trying to make a joke about how I could get my wife a bigger car, like trying to do as many references to the movie as I could. Yeah, this was hilarious and like social horror done the best way possible. Tim Robinson nailed it, just drilled it out of the fucking park. I Think You Should Leave is one of my favorite shows, like one of the funniest shows ever, and this just had me roaring with laughter. This dude knows how to play my funny bone, and this really worked. It was a blessing to see him and that format and that sense of humor all done right in a movie like this. I want to get a drum set. But coming in at number 1 is Final Destination Bloodlines. Final Destination Bloodlines is the movie I've been waiting for 14 years, but more realistically, the movie I've been waiting for 7 years, since I fell in love with this franchise, and it has become one of my top 3 favorite horror franchises after I got into horror in 2018. I got into horror in the summer of 2018. And my goodness, Final Destination just has such a place in my heart, and was one of the very first franchises that I just grew such an affinity for. Right there with Friday the 13th and Halloween and Evil Dead, and this one is just absolute favorite. And I've rewatched the first 3. I just watched the third one for the 16th time. according to my Letterboxd. But which will be down in the comments or the description if you want to follow. But this was like, whoa, unbelievably good. Like, I never could have expected this to be as good as it was. It was so cool the way that it tied it back to the 1960s, I think it was. I've seen it 3 times. I should know, but I also know it just doesn't say what year, so you have to kind of guess. I'm thinking, because I watched a bunch of interviews with the cast, I think it's like 68. Or 64 maybe. Who cares? But it goes all the way back there to kind of tell you why the rest of the franchise happens in a certain way. Not the whole franchise, maybe. Maybe it's not every character is connected to those people that survived that day. But it really was an interesting way to do this movie. And I wish it was called Final Destination Death Runs in the Family. Only because that would have been such a badass title. But Bloodlines breaks the curse of that being a bad horror title because this was so good. The kills are great. It has bad CGI, but just like every Final Destination movie, my favorite kill, Golden Chainsaw, the MRI machine. Come on, if you see that, you know what I'm talking about. Of course, that's the best one. Either one, you know what I mean. And I love the ending. I love that it was logs that hit them. I know some people are saying that's too on the nose. It was not for me. I thought that was funny, and that's like the best way of referencing, like, making death feel like a character. You know, making death feel like a character that is like, hey, I'm like Mike with his knife. I really like my log truck. So, I thought that was cool. I thought all that was really cool and well done. Um, I thought the characters were so fun, and like Eric is one of my new favorite characters of the franchise, right next to Ian McKinley and Wendy from FD3, and Clear Rivers, of course. So yeah, and Billy from the first one. So easily number one is Final Destination Bloodlines, because this is a movie that I have nothing bad to say about, because it is a movie made for me to enjoy. You know, like, it is just made top to bottom for me to absolutely love every second of that carnage candy, and I do. And I really appreciated the effort put forth in the story, and of course the cinematic eulogy that is perfect, and just the most amazing set off for Tony Todd was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful addition, and the best scene of the movie for me. Just amazing, just absolutely amazing. So number one, Final Destination Bloodlines. Let me know your ranking of whatever movies you saw in the month of May. Uh, I'm gonna go fishing and enjoy this morning, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. God bless.